I have some great news. The Dr. Courtney Alston and Company training website is now live. Yes, the Dr. Courtney Alston and Company training website is now live, guys. I'm so happy to be able to share that with you. There you will find our latest course, which is Finding Happiness After Loss and is fueled by positive psychology. The course is here to help those coping with the loss of a loved one, divorce, diminishing health, or job, and more. It's about grieving loss and finding happiness. It's also about resilient grieving and learning more. You can learn much more about it by visiting drcourtneyalston.com/training. That's drcourtneyalston.com/training. Now, let's get back to the podcast. Welcome to the Courting Happiness Podcast. This is a space where self-care becomes part of your day. A space where you learn evidence-based strategies to help your life, share it with those you love, and cultivate well-being at work. I'm your host, Dr. Courtney Alston. I'm a former news director, television reporter turned happiness scholar, TEDx speaker, and transformational trainer. I also understand hardships. While working my dream job in television, I lived a nightmare suddenly becoming a young widow after 86 days of marriage. I became committed to learning more about resilience, healing, and happiness. This is how I discovered my area of research, which is positive psychology. Now I'm living my calling of training individuals and organizations on happiness. And my new chapter begins with being happily engaged. The Courting and Courting Happiness is about a true courtship. I like to say commitment with happiness. The K in courting stands for the vulnerability of sharing my story, inspirational interviews with phenomenal people, the infusion of positive psychology, and so much more. You'll learn how to commit to your well-being one episode at a time. I hope you subscribe and share. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to episode 50. Can I just say that again? 50. Yes, we have 50 episodes of the Courting Happiness Podcast. I'm so excited to say that. And it's all because of you. All because of you. Guys, I treasure every email, text, every story that you share, and then all of the individuals that have been emailing and contacting the Courting Happiness Podcast team about being on the podcast. I am so excited about some of the people who I have lined up who are so ready and excited to be able to share their expertise, their gifts, and their transformative stories with you. I'm so looking forward to sharing that. So I'm so grateful for all of your support, and I'm so grateful to be able to say 50 episodes. So let's continue to get started on what we're going to talk about today, right? So I wanted to do something special because, again, 50. And as you know, the Courting Happiness podcast was invited by LinkedIn to take part in a pilot program for podcasters. They invited us to produce LinkedIn Lives and publish a bi-weekly newsletter on the platform. Well, the newsletter, it's growing. It is growing. So far, we have more than 1,100 subscribers and counting. And we hope that you join us there. I truly hope to see you there. I'm looking forward to seeing you. So we aired one of our LinkedIn Lives. It was about mindfulness at work with international speaker, trainer, and business leader, Ardenia Myrick. She was exceptional. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, it's one of our most popular episodes. You must actually go and listen in. She shares so much great information in regards to how to create a mindfulness program at work. Also, the value of mindfulness. And I will say this, she has created such a popular program for her organization that employees are showing up during holiday breaks. So it is a episode that you must listen to. But on this 50th episode, I think I might have said that once or twice already, right? On this 50th episode of the Courting Happiness podcast, we're going to share the special presentation of a LinkedIn Live of a guest that is no stranger to this podcast. Tira Murray is the founder of the Female Academic. Now, she joined our pilot episode of the Courting Happiness Live that you only see on LinkedIn, but we're going to do something special today because what? We are 50 episodes in. This is our 50th, right? So we're going to dive in deeper concerning building community. She truly knows how to inspire and bring individuals together, and she knows how to do that really genuinely. She does a great job at connecting and really introducing her community to not only people from all over the world, but she has a great way in terms of sharing all of the dynamics as relates to the community itself. And she does this on Instagram. She's really well known for her Instagram lives. We're going to talk about that. Well, you'll hear that, I should say, in this LinkedIn Live special presentation. So let's listen in to the LinkedIn Live with Tira to learn how you can strengthen and create your happy community. My name is Dr. Courtney Alston. I'm a happiness scholar, trainer, and TEDx speaker. And I'm also the host of the Courting Happiness podcast. And I'm very excited for our first LinkedIn Live today. So, the Courting Happiness podcast is all about increasing your well being one episode at a time. And it's fueled by positive psychology, which happens to be my area of research. We discuss workplace well being to how to create a positive culture. And you can listen to the Courting Happiness podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you enjoy listening to your favorite podcast. Today on our pilot episode, which, okay, I'm going to try to really control my emotions, that in terms of, I'm so excited about this because not only do we have a great topic, but we have an amazing guest. We're going to talk about community and really with the creator that is growing an amazing community. Her name is Professor Tira Murray. She's the founder of the Female Academic, which is a network for women of color in the academy dedicated to providing resources and support. Professor Murray is also an instructor at North Carolina A&T State University, where we both work in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. I'm so excited that she's here and so excited that she's joining us on our first LinkedIn Live. Professor Murray, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, as you can tell by the grin on my face.
Well, I'm so excited that you're here. So let's talk about this because these are topics that we talk about all the time. And actually, Professor Murray talked about this on the Courting Happiness podcast, but we're going to also give you a little bit more and then also encourage you to listen to the podcast episode for you to continue to build your knowledge as it relates to building community. Tira, how would you describe, what do you mean when you hear the term community? What does that mean to you?
Community. So instantly, in my case, I think community as in support. I think that community can be a sisterhood. I think that community is kind of where you can live and breathe in a space where people who don't necessarily look exactly like you might be going through some of the same you're going through. They're all there for each other in a network.
I love that in terms of that. I love that in terms of sisterhood, and you're talking about as it relates to support. It's interesting because I just had a speaking engagement literally yesterday. We were talking about well-being and mental health, and one of the panelists shared the value of finding community. Right? Because community can be so instrumental in terms of really letting us understand, really support and allowing us to feel seen, a level of belonging. So tell us, because the female academic is such a growing community, and guys, Professor Murray does this amazing job with her Instagram lives, and she speaks to women all over the world. How did you go about building community? How did that even happen?
So, the female academic, if we can talk about purpose for a little bit, getting into community, um, I actually first started my journey in building community with trying to find out tools for myself. So, as an academic, there are some resources out there for us and how to maneuver, just different opinion pieces on, people who have either left and gone to different universities, so on and so forth, trying to find a better opportunity for themselves. And what I noticed in researching all of this is that there was nothing specifically for people of color, and not just people of color, but women of color. Just to give you some background, only 3.4% of professors in the United States are Black women. That is an extremely low percentile. And if I'm not mistaken, 4.1% of Asian American women make up the professors in the United States as well. And I believe the same statistic is for Hispanic professors as well. So it's alarming to see those numbers. And so for me, I knew the only way that I could find resources, or if someone else was trying to find resources, it's kind of like if it's not there, why not start it? So I started the female academic um, purely by those standards. I needed support not just for myself, but I knew there were other women out there who, like I said, even though we don't necessarily look alike, we may not have the same circumstance. We might be going through some similar trials, or you've gone through something in the past that I'm going through now, and how can we fix it? So, kind of finding a solution to the problem. So, with the female academic and building that community, it is now I can say 1,000 members strong. But I'm very thankful for this because we have members literally from all over the world. We have women that are being featured literally from all over the world, and it's a beautiful community and sisterhood.
Tell us a little bit more about those stories of sisterhood from your community, because one of the things I will say that I love so very much is being able to hear from other women, from this global stage that you've created as it relates to sharing their stories. So tell us, give us a little insight in terms of what some of those stories are from those women from around the world.
Yeah, so I want to first off start by thanking them. Everyone that I've featured in the past, or that is in the process of being featured, or would like to be featured, I thank them so much because without them, um, this dream could not be a reality. Being that I get to sit down with women weekly and they can share their stories so candidly is amazing. I mean, we have covered some, I'd hate to say taboo, but it's taboo. The academy can be very one way, and discussing certain topics sometimes is off the table. But these women have come to the forefront with their transparency and telling their story and offering their advice. Um, and in doing so, they've built community for themselves. I always say, after every feature, expect to get followed, expect to get someone to message you. For example, one of my very first features, well, not first, but second, she is a licensed clinical social worker and also a bilingual therapist. And it was some post of hers that I reposted, not even thinking anything of the connection, right? And someone from my community said, I listened to her story and I just want to know, do you think it's okay for me to reach out to her? Absolutely. That is exactly what this community is for. Don't be afraid to reach out because that's how we build.
It's so true. It's interesting as you were talking and sharing about the value of sharing that information, and then also having someone who's watching or listening, right?
Right.
Being it speaking to them, right? Because that
Mhm.
speaks to a level of it really surfacing and allowing it to really speak to that individual, and then giving them those resources to be able to reach out to the other individual that's a part of the community to really help serve them. So that in itself, when you think about it, is so powerful,
Yeah.
right? In terms of that value, I will say that I think that's one of the things that I've loved about creating Courting Happiness is having people being able to talk about the importance of well-being and what that looks like in the workplace and what that looks like in their personal life, but then also being able to create a safe place for them to share, right? And that's so super
Mhm.
important. Tell us, because I've been on guys, I've been on Professor Murray's Instagram live, and it's
Mhm.
so fun and but yet informative. How do you go about creating that safe space for those individuals that may be watching and saying, you know what, hey, I think I want to start creating my community too? How do you go about, developing that safe place so people can share and be vulnerable?
Let me tell you, I have someone that, say I want to be featured, but I'm just really shy and
Mm.
I don't know how this will go. I don't know if I can do it. And I always tell them, I'm not here as an interrogator. I'm not here to question you. I'm here just as a listening ear. And sometimes that's what works best. Some people just want to be heard and want their stories to be validated and told. So by not going about it a in kind of like a curious way, like I want to know more, I want to know more, let them tell you. Because, sometimes I have questions listed, and to be very honest with you, the conversation might go in a totally different direction because it's blossomed that way. And that's really what gets, the best interviews. But in terms of making people feel safe and secure, um, I do my best to sound more like a friend and like a sister, not someone that's coming from a judgmental place, and just being there truly for them during this interview.
I love that. And, for anyone that's watching right now, thank you so very much. We're so appreciative that you are here. We're talking with Professor Tira Murray, who is the founder of the Female Academic, and also an instructor at North Carolina A&T State University. And we both work for the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. We're talking about building community. And I think this is the perfect place for us to kind of now begin to, even though we already started talking about it, really talking about the importance of what that looks like as it relates to purpose. So tell us, for an individual who's thinking about, okay, I want to create a community and I want to create one that is focusing on a mission that really is meaningful to me, how would you go about instructing them to begin?
So, my first thing that I would say is you've identified the need. Now what? You
Mm.
can't just identify the need and continue to dwell on it. You have to act on it. So, if you have this dream inside of you already and building it, do it. Once you have figured that out, Dr. Alston gave me some amazing advice.
What, me?
Yes, 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 yes. Focus on your demographic. Who is it
Mm.
that you are serving? Because if you are not serving someone with a purpose, it's going to be met. So, with this being said, focus on your demographic, focus on projecting the materials that you want to put out. And honestly, I will say, just from my own personal experience in creating content for the female academic, these are things that I say to myself, I think, almost 24/7. Sometimes we have memes that can be a little snarky, and they're kind of what I'm thinking in a moment. And I'm like, I know someone else has got to be thinking this. And they do think it too. Or even the affirmations that I put out. And, these, like I said, these are things I literally tell myself I'll write down in my journal and use them later on. But the good thing about it is the difference between the female academic and every other community and anyone thinking about building a community is we all share a space in helping someone, right? That's the
Mhm.
purpose. It's either, if you want to make an account just for memes, well, your purpose probably is making people have a better day and that you might just be around like-minded people. So as long as you are staying true to yourself and true to the mission that you want to set forth for your community, it'll blossom, it'll grow. And trust me, the people, they will come. And even if you don't see it in the numbers in your following or on the engagement in the posts, they're watching. People are always watching.
It's interesting because as you were talking about those memes, I actually began to visualize your page because I will say, guys, I love going on Instagram and checking out all the creativity that you put in to those memes. Like, tell us a little bit about some of the ones that have really kind of resonated with your community.
Um, I will definitely say, probably the last one I put up. It was a meme of Issa Rae, which Issa Rae, she is the producer and actress in Insecure. And, you know, she has this one meme where it's kind of like math symbols going around her. Like you see pi, you see these equations, and she's got like this flute of champagne. And I put trying to calculate how many days I have left to have a summer break. And I laughed as I made it because I really, at that very second, was trying to calculate how many days I had left. For
It,
someone that's in the classroom, I mean, we joke about this all the time about, oh, can't wait to go on summer, can't wait to go on summer. But then summer's here, and then you realize you've done so many other things. Do I really have summer? So that's really what generated that whole meme. But there's so many from either whether they're trying to be snarky or trying to be like empowering. Like there's one that I have of Rihanna putting on a crown, and I think it was titled "When You Finally Realize Your Self Worth and Act Like It."
mm.
So memes can go a long way. They can go for a smile, or they can go for something a little bit more meaningful.
I love that because it really speaks to whatever an individual may be going through.
Mhm.
Maybe I think I love them also because it allows me to go, oh, I wasn't the only one thinking this. Like
Right.
like oh, I wasn't the only one feeling this way. So I really love the fact that it allows us to have a level of feeling seen,
Yeah.
right? And the importance of feeling seen. So earlier you mentioned staying true to yourself, right? And the value of staying true to yourself. How
Mhm.
does a person do that in terms of staying true to themselves as it relates to building community? Because I have been a part of seeing your, this incredible growth with the female academic. But before the female academic, I'll allow you to share what that other name was of your organization and tell us, how did you really kind of keep with being true to yourself as well as thinking about how to narrow that down that ideal demographic to really serve them.
So before the female academic, I created Professing Forward. I specifically wanted what the female academic was, but I just don't think I knew how to narrow it down. And it took a while. And one thing that I definitely want to relay to people who are building a community, you can change your name. Don't be afraid to change your name, because if it just does not feel right, if it does not sit right with you, if you feel like you are dragging doing the work, you can always reevaluate and change. Brands do it all the time. Fun fact, North Carolina specifically with the Hornets and Food Lion, they changed their colors to rebrand to match each other. So if they can do that, oh, with the Panthers, I'm sorry. If they can do that, you can do it too. There's no stopping anyone from rechanging or reimagining what their brand can be. So with that being said, professing forward for me was about helping other professionals either get into higher education or those that are there how to navigate through it. And so I just told you two scenarios, right?
Mhm.
But I can't really help someone get in the door and help someone get through it. Because if somebody's just trying to get in, but they're taking advice saying, oh, well, I can do XYZ, it may not be applicable to them just yet because they don't have their feet wet. So I narrowed down that focus to the female academic, and it took, if we're being honest, probably 7 months of me changing that name. And I knew with the female academic, it just hit me. It's like I knew instantly that was the name and this is what I was going to do. And it wasn't just like, well, there's more than one female academic. Yes, but I feature one female academic weekly. So it fit perfectly with what I had envisioned for it. And in staying true to myself with that, I remember when I first made the change and I started making content and I said, I curse naturally. It's no secondary language to me. It's very much in in my everyday lingo. So I wanted to make the female academic just as much a part of me as it
Mhm.
could be for others. And so I remember my first post, it had a cuss word in it. I was so scared to post it. I mean, when I tell you I contemplated it, I almost stayed up all night contemplating it because I said, oh my gosh, how are people going to perceive this? Are they going to think that this is too raunchy? Are they going to unfollow me? And you know what? They embraced it. Shockingly, they embraced it. So I said, oh, so there's other people out there like me who, are academics as well, and they curse. And there's not a problem with that. And I think the best thing about that is it made me realize, I don't have to be afraid to be who I am. You know, the academy is going to have to accept me regardless of the fact, and it has. So you don't need to change to fit in, to conform. You can still very much be yourself, be authentic to your brand, and still showcase the content that you want to showcase.
It's interesting because I think what you just shared as it relates to fear is so real, right? In terms of, developing or creating and then putting it out there. I like to call putting your baby out there, like
Yeah.
putting it out there and then, really kind of operating on this uncertainty, right? In terms of what's going to happen, how are people going to see it, and how are people going to see me. So, how did you do that in terms of moving past that fear to be able to say, okay, I am going to share content, create a community that really speaks to me unapologetically?
Yeah,
How did
no,
you do that?
unapologetically.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, it's kind of like imagine, well, I'll put you in a nice scenario. Imagine you're in Hawaii and there
Ooh, I
is
like this.
yeah, no, trust me, it's going to get juicy. You're on a cliff in in Kauai, or no, Waikiki. There we go. You're on a cliff in a beautiful beach, and the water's calling your name, and you're like, oh, do I want to jump? I'm so scared to jump. Do I jump? And then on the other side of you not jumping because you don't know how deep it is, it's either you're gonna jump or you're gonna walk back to the car. So you're gonna jump in the beautiful water and the beach that is literally calling your name, or are you going back to the car? And in that scenario for me, when I posted my first post, listen to when I say my first post with a cuss word, because I've gotten regular, with intertwining it here and there.
Uh-huh.
So I jumped. I had to jump. I had to see what was going to happen when I did it. And let me tell you, the water was beautiful. It was beautiful. It felt calming, and I knew I made the right decision. So for anyone that is scared on the other side of fear, I often say in life, no challenge, no change. So if you're not being challenged by something, you cannot change. But on the other side of that is a reward.
I love that. No challenge, no change. Professor Murray and I, when we have our telephone conversations that usually last 24 hours, um, we, Professor Murray always says to me, that should be on a t-shirt. No challenge, no change. Tira, that belongs on a t-shirt. Yeah, I love that in terms of it's
Yeah.
about kind of, pushing through, right? And then also trusting yourself in the process,
Hmm.
right? Which can be challenging to do. Earlier you mentioned you spent 7 months kind of processing and going through. For individuals that are watching that are thinking, okay, what did that 7 months look like? Because they may be in a position of thinking about building their community, and I always like to say it's kind of out here, right?
Hmm.
It's like out here, but it's not reality yet, right? In terms of being able to build that community and having that following or having those individuals that are part of it yet, but it's here in terms of an idea. So kind of walk us through a little bit about what that 7 months looked like, just highlights that really allow you to push and really, develop and birth what we now know as the female academic.
Well, let me tell you this. The first 2 months, I had a total of 19 followers. After that, I want to say around August, I finally hit that 30 mark. And then around November, I got to 42, it's either 42, 47. And I just knew, I said, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't I'm putting out good content? What is it? It's not talking to people. It's talking to too many people. That's really what
Mm-hmm.
it was doing. Too many people. And it was not serving a purpose that can serve a demographic, a general demographic. It wasn't doing it. But I'll tell you what, when I made the change and when I made the name change, the difference between November to February is 400 followers. But what's
Wow.
even more enlightening, and I always call this my whoa moment. I think a lot of people they get that moment here and there. Um,
Mhm.
and mine came after the change. I made a post about Dr. Jill Biden and about Vice President Harris. And that post in itself, I just said, it's probably going to get some traction. Mind you, this is after the name change. If you go to the page now, that post has been shared over 600 times and has
Wow.
actually been saved over 100 times.
Wow.
Yeah, when I tell you that day, I actually had a doctor's appointment on inauguration day. So I was just sitting there, my phone zzz, going crazy. I'm like, what's going on? I just was like, I mean, my heart sank because that was that whoa moment, but it also very much told me, you see what that post said? You see what that post said, right? You're watching this because people are watching and they're reacting. And from that post alone, it's like it took over my page. You know how people say it only takes just one. That was it. There have been many others after that, but that is the highest ranking one. And honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. Someone just last week liked it. So this tells me people are going through, right? They either see
Mm-hmm.
something that's shared or that someone has either tagged them in, and they go scrolling. and they go scrolling and they go scrolling. You don't just double tap something from 5 months ago. Well, we're in July. So about 5 months ago for no reason. You definitely go in there. So, it's all about trusting yourself and knowing that literally it takes one. It literally just takes one.
It's interesting because we were talking about how you kind of narrow down that focus, right? In terms of being really specific concerning
Yeah,
your audience. And I'm
yeah.
sitting here, I go, and I remember this saying, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, gosh, I can't recall who said this, but it's the whole saying: if you're trying to speak to everyone, you're speaking to no one. And so I loved what you shared in terms of this narrowing down that focus. So for individuals
Mhm.
thinking about, creating community, really really begin to process who your ideal you know member is as relates to the community, right? In a business
Yeah,
standpoint, we would call it maybe your ideal customer avatar.
yeah.
But in community, you could think of it as, what is your ideal member of your community, who that person is, what do they look like in terms of their interest, and where do they live, especially as it relates to online, so you can also have a presence there. So I really really treasured what Professor Murray shared in regards to that, because that is so important in regards to speaking to your community. So let's talk about one more thing before we lead into talking about community at work and what that looks like. So, in terms of community as relates to purpose, let's talk about the value of core values, right? So, what are your core values, I should say, and how did you go about thinking about, okay, these are the most ideal core values for my purpose driven community?
I knew that I wanted to not be a voice, but just be one of the voices on there. I did not want this page to totally revolve around me and my work, right? I wanted this to be a collective. So I knew that having involvement with other academics was necessary to do this. So for me, with my values, like I said, making sure that I'm building the community and that the community is also being served. If they see no purpose in being served, why follow? Why even be featured? And so that meant a lot to me. Um, in terms of even just the female academic going forward, it's still very much the same values. Who am I serving, and am I doing them a service? And with the features, are they helping other people?
I love that in terms of really operating in terms of a level of service, right? In terms of
Right.
who are we serving, what value are you providing to your community, and what does that look like? And if you're an individual who's watching and saying, but why me? I see so many other people, who are, doing things that are similar, right? You might be wondering, well, what differentiates me? You might even be having a little imposter syndrome in terms of,
Mhm.
why should I be the one to share this message? What advice would you give to that individual that is saying, well, there's other communities out there, but why, what differentiates me?
Well, let me tell you, I've heard this advice so many times, and I still kind of sit there sometimes when I think about it and ponder, like, I guess, maybe. You walk into the bread aisle. How many different types of white bread do you see? Thousands. How many different types do you see? Thousands. It's just the fact that somebody might like one bread over the other because of the taste, because of the longevity, or just because for different purposes. So, in knowing this for your brand, don't be afraid to not put something else out there. You know how many replicas there are of brands out there who do it on purpose? If you're not doing it on purpose and you're doing it to serve a purpose, there's the difference right there. If you're doing it to serve because you think that this need needs to be met, then do it. Don't back down. And I think it's so easy, right? To say, well, they've got 100,000 followers. They're already in the millions and they're pish posh. You can do it. Don't be intimidated by the likes that someone else has or the following because they are not doing exactly what you're doing. Because if you saw something already out there and it was exactly what you're doing, you wouldn't feel the need to create it.
Absolutely. And, I also love the idea of just different voices out there, right? And I love that what you just shared in terms of embracing and sharing the story and sharing your community and being able to really inspire the world, right? As
Yeah.
relates to your message, giving voice to your message. Okay, so this is my favorite part. Um so before I get to my favorite part, for anyone who is watching for the very first time, welcome to the Courting Happiness Live. We are live here on LinkedIn. I'm Dr. Courtney Alston. I am with the incredible Professor Tira Murray, who's the founder of the Female Academic. We're talking about building community, and we're going to end the segment by talking about, like I said, my favorite part. And it's because it's all about building community. How do you build community at work? What does that even look like? And the reason why I say it's my favorite part is because Professor Murray and I work at North Carolina A&T together. That's where we met. We work for the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. When I speak to different executives and I'm doing training sessions and I'm during speaking engagements, I often talk about the importance of building positive relationships, and which is really key in terms of positive psychology. But then I also have a twist on it because I talk about the importance of having a self-care squad
Mm-hmm.
and what that looks like and the value of that. Those individuals that are highly empathetic, that are great active listeners. And I'm really proud to say this. Well, Professor Murray is a part of my self-care squad. So this is why I say this is my favorite part, because it speaks about the importance of building community at work. So Professor Murray, let's talk about this. And you'll notice I go back and forth. I call it Professor Murray. I call it Tira. It speaks to a level of our respect, right? And then our friendship. So
Yes.
let's talk about the importance of building community at work. Why does it even matter?
Oh my goodness. You know why? I have a laundry list, but I'll keep it short. Um, oh my goodness. You know what? Building community at work, nothing feels more important than knowing you've got an ally.
Mm.
It is not supposed to come off to sound shady or like black ops. Like, what do you mean ally? No, you need an ally because there will be times at work when you're like, are we thinking the same thing? Did we just see that? And you know you're not the only one that is seeing that or just heard that. Okay.
Uh-huh.
It's so important. And you know what? To have an ally, to have an open, listening, non judgmental ear. There we go. Because if you are at work and you work with someone that judges your opinions, your moves that you want to make, that's not an ally. And it's important to know that you are seen and heard by someone that values you. You know, recently I have really been preaching about the difference between respect and value, and to actually enjoy being around a person, right? You can enjoy being around them, but you may not have respect for them. You can enjoy being around someone and not value them. You can value someone for what they bring to the table and not enjoy them and not respect them. Vice versa for respect, right? And this works in the same regard to having an ally at work. It's important because you never know what'll happen. You might have a really good day and you want to share that good day with someone who understands what you go through. You might have a bad day and you might want to share that with someone that understands what you're going through. So it is highly important. I even tell my students this too, if work doesn't feel like family, something's off. And
Mm.
I've noticed that at certain points in my life. I've definitely noticed that where I don't feel family. I feel like I'm on Family Feud. I'll put it in the nicest way possible, where I don't know who I'm working with and I have no ally. So it's definitely important to feel, I don't want to say literally at home, but that you can definitely count on a few people to give a call, and they will be that listening ear no matter what.
It's interesting because as you were talking about family, right? Building
Mhm.
family and working in an environment. I love that you shared that with your students in terms of the power of working in an environment where you feel a sense of family.
Mhm.
I look back on my career because I'm a former television reporter and news director, and I worked in, television stations all across the country, as well as working as a news director for a public radio station in Baltimore with an incredible team of producers and reporters and talk show hosts. And when I look back on my time in broadcasting, one of the things that I treasure so much is that I felt like every station I was meeting a family member. I had gotten so accustomed to going to work, like finding friends for life and
Yeah.
sisters for life, that I was like, this is why everybody works, like everyone
Mhm.
works this way. And it's so ironic because my fiance, who is doing a phenomenal job, really helping us manage this courting happiness live. He is, an Emmy winning journalist, and so I met him through one of our journalist organization. So, I have this really great fondness and soft spot for really the experience I've had working in news. So that also speaks to a level of trust, right,
Mhm.
within the workplace, a feeling that sense of family. So if someone who's watching and saying, but how do I even begin to think of, because some people may think, well, it's work, it's I just work there.
Mhm.
But there is a value in
Yeah.
terms of having those relationships, in terms of those professional relationships where you have this level of trust. So what would you say, I should say, to an individual that's saying, I don't even know how to begin that process?
Well, I would start off by saying, if you don't know if you can trust the people who you work with, should you be there?
Mm.
And that's a real, excuse me, personal conversation that you have to develop and to really think about. If I can't trust the people I work with, why am I there? If something were to happen at work, would anyone have your back? And this isn't like, oh, it's not that serious. It is serious because we are in a world where everything is being recorded, everything is going viral. It's virtual. We are virtual, 100%. Situations that happen at the workplace. I mean, they get to TikTok faster than it could get to the 5 o'clock news, honestly, at this rate. So if you don't feel like there's someone you can trust that will really have your organization that goes haywire, are you there? And I know it's totally easy, trust me, because I've been there, done that. I'm just here to get a paycheck and leave. I'm just here to get a paycheck and leave, right? But at the end of the day, are you in an environment that's serving you while you're getting a paycheck and leaving? You really have to question that. But if you are in an environment where you do trust people, network with them. Dr. Olson, I heard about her from the students before I got to meet her myself. So I
Wait
didn't
a
get
minute,
to
what were
get
they
like,
saying? Look.
they thought you were fabulous. They said there's another professor here that loves Starbucks just as much as you do. And I said, I gotta meet them. Who is it? Oh, it's
My
Dr.
Starbucks is
Olson.
over
She's at
there,
an
by the
MBA.
way.
You gotta meet her. No, it's the truth. You know what is so funny for everyone listening? I was talking to Dr. Alston. I think this last week when I was talking about, and something, 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 something Starbucks, and I showed her my cup and she pulled up her cup right there. I mean, it's like the level of, of, of being alike is uncanny, but I'm trying to say, like, we really started just purely with a conversation in a hallway.
Mhm.
And in the same aspect in which we have literally moved from that point to where we are now is the same way in which you can start building a network with people around you at work. Now, if you're an introvert, I'm actually very, very introverted. So for me, meeting people is
I
a
don't
little
believe
hard.
that, but okay.
I, I promise. When I'm around people that I know, I think the term is called an omnivert, where you're an
Uh-huh.
introvert around people you don't know, and then people that you do know, you're an extrovert, right?
Uh-huh.
So when I'm around people I don't know, I'm very to myself in my corner. If you don't like socializing, I get that. But right, if this is a place where you see that you're going to be at for more than 2 years, come out of the shell. Come out of the shell. It'll get better. Just practice. You don't have to go and talk to everybody all in one day. It could just be simply stopping by, asking someone for a pen, and boom, conversation from there. Asking someone if they heard about such and such, start a conversation from there. There's little tidbits in what you can do. Or, hey, I have that same sweater. Me too. So tell me about it, blah, blah, blah. You know, it literally just takes one little instance and there's your connection, and you can keep coming back to that connection every day.
That's so true. And that connection can really be a great lifeline, right? In
Yeah,
terms of, building your level of comfort on the job. And it's interesting because, during some of my training sessions, we will talk about the value of having a buddy at work, and even having someone that you can vent with at work. That you trust, right? That you can really share and to be heard and seen as it relates to whatever you may be going through on the job,
mhm.
because it does have, really does serve an individual when you're talking to someone who kind of gets it, right? Who gets what's
Exactly.
going on, who gets the culture, maybe gets the job,
Yeah.
gets your position without you having to explain, okay, well, this is how my day works, and really this is
Yep.
how it needs to be. And then that can be either or. I've also talked to individuals as a happiness scholar who have shared with me, actually, it doesn't really matter, Dr. Courtney, just for me to be able to talk to someone. So
Yeah.
it can, again, there's no right or wrong here. It's really what's right for you. And to think about what is right for you in terms of, how, community can serve you. So we've talked about community, from, how to build it, how to build it with purpose, how to build it on the job.
Hmm.
And, I would like for us to end by you sharing just one bit of advice for our listeners, really the individuals watching. That this tells you that I'm so used to my podcast. I'm so used to saying listeners that I'm like, no, people are watching us.
We're watching.
The television person in me should go, yeah, people are watching us. So for people who are watching us, what is really one bit of advice that you can share in regards to a person looking for community, building community, and finding community?
Mhm. Looking for community, building community, and finding community. You know, um, I would definitely say do what feeds your soul. So if you like being around a certain group of people, go be around them, right? If you feel like you navigate towards a certain type of food, go get that food and you actually might find someone who's sitting there by themselves as well. And you can definitely start a community that way. Now, if we're talking online community, if you can't find the community, don't be afraid to build it. Starting from scratch is okay. Um, Fun tidbit, one of my favorite Black designers, she deleted her Instagram. She had
Hmm.
16,000 people following her, and she deleted it. And she just started from scratch probably about a month ago. Now has 2,000 followers. Probably because people were trying to search and find her. But don't be afraid to start over, and don't be afraid to build something. I will say too, don't be afraid to reach out to people. And I say this also from a point of view of building the community, right? You can have a page, you can have a website, XYZ. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, because if you don't reach out to people, how will you continue to network? How will you continue to build? Um, that's very much just like the female academic. I started out reaching out to people. Now, thankfully, I kind of get just asked, but it's a good thing because I still like to reach out to people as well. So don't be afraid to send a message, because you never know where it'll take you, and do it fearlessly. Jump into that beach I was talking about in Waikiki. Don't be afraid to jump into there fearlessly, because your reward is on the other side of the water.
I love it. I love that we were on the beach today with
Mhm.
you, Professor Murray. You are phenomenal. And guys, Professor Tira Murray has a TED Talk that will help you really have a good feeling of self and belonging. You can visit, actually, you can watch her TED Talk by visiting my website, which is at Dr. Courtney Alston /podcast /episode 27. That is drcourtneyalston.com /podcast /episode 27, what you see at the bottom of your screen there. And you can also check out the episode where Professor Murray shares all even more goodness as it relates to the importance and the power of building a purposeful community. So for any individuals that were watching that are like, yes, I'm ready to live fearlessly, right? Go check out episode 27 of the Courting Happiness podcast with Professor Tara Murray. Plus, I have to say this because I will tell you, your Instagram will thank you for it when you follow her there, especially if you're working in the academy, if you're an academic. You can find Professor Murray on Instagram at where can they find you, Professor Murray?
My personal page, you can find me at the Millennial Professor, all together, no dots, as the female academic. And you can follow, be a part of the community. I would love to have you. We would love to have you. All of us, we would love to have you. The support is there. Trust me. If you need support, it is there. The community is so inviting and loves to communicate under different posts, and also after the features. So please follow us at the female academic, the dot female dot academic, and we'll see you there.
You know what? Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, hopefully, I was able to control levels of excitement. I say this when I interview individuals. I get so excited to be able to talk, and to share, and to really hear all of the brilliance and the amazing gifts and talents. I love seeing individual shine. I love seeing you shine, Professor Murray. Thank you so much for being here. And then I was able to grab our favorite thing, which is Starbucks. So cheers to you.
Cheers.
As I have my favorite Starbucks cup of coffee a little bit later after this show. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for being a part of our first episode of Courting Happiness Live here on LinkedIn. I truly appreciate you and appreciate all the great work that you're doing.
Well, thank you. And honestly, cheers to the first episode and cheers to the thousands more that we'll be seeing.
Thank you so much. We will receive that. We
Yeah.
receive that with great happiness. We receive it. Thank you so much. This conversation doesn't have to end, guys. You can listen again to more episodes of the Courting Happiness podcast by subscribing and also checking out Professor Murray's episode, which is episode 27. You can also learn more about other workplace topics and well being tips for your organization. Thank you so much for being here today. Remember that well being works, and we are here to help you learn more and more about what that looks like for you at home and at work. Guys, have a great day and a great well being weekend. Let's continue this conversation online. Email us at podcast@drcourtneyalston.com. That's podcast at drkortnialston.com. Join us on Instagram at Courting Happiness. Don't forget, that's courting with a K. Also, I hope you join our private Facebook community. You can find us at Courting Happiness Podcast Community. Our private Facebook group is a safe haven to share, meet more people looking to build positive relationships, focus on well-being, and create a happier life. Now, are you ready to spread happiness? We hope you subscribe and share this podcast with your family, friends, coworkers, and all the important people in your world. We release a new episode every Thursday. Congratulations on your continued commitment to your courting happiness journey. Thank you so much for listening. We want you to be well, be happier, and be kinder to yourself. We can't wait to see you next week.